Good morning and welcome to Fountain Street Church. I'm the Reverend Christopher Rowe. I am the executive minister here at Fountain Street Church, and it is my privilege and honor to welcome you to our worship service this morning on All Saints Sunday. This morning is particularly different because we have gone into a very safe and cautious COVID plan here at the church, which means for this week, everything is being filmed on my meek and humble iPhone. That's right, your executive minister is also your camera operator and producer this week, and so please forgive the glitches. Please ignore any of the weird, awkward transitions and just be with us as we gather around the light that kindles within each of us and keeps us connected during this time of COVID. I know that COVID feels more and more stressful with every passing moment, and I understand that Tuesday is kind of putting this damper on our living right now. But will you please covenant with me that for the next hour, we will shed the fear and the anxiety as much as we can, and just be present in this holy and mysterious hour with one another? I know that we're spread out, and I feel the pain with you, but the light that burns within and among us also burns all around us. And so in the spirit of this community, please know you are welcomed here. You are welcomed here no matter what you believe. You are welcomed here no matter who you are. You are welcomed here no matter who you love or how you live or where you live. Please know that you belong at Fountain Street Church, and on behalf of every soul and on behalf of every saint that has called or continues to call Fountain Street Church their spiritual home, welcome to this Sunday worship on All Saints Sunday. Thank you for being here.
Spirit that even time cannot contain. On this Sunday of remembrance, we remember, O God, the countless saints throughout history who have blazed a trail of courage through time. Those saints who feel so close, we feel we could touch them still. And those we never knew, the unnamed among us.
We remember, O God, the tender touch of loved ones, the example of heroes, the healing words of comforters, and the remarkable acts of fearless ones.
We remember, O God, the gentle strength of grandmothers, the loyalty of friends, the kindness of strangers, the joy of children, and the sacrifice of parents.
We remember, O God, all who have devoted their lives to peace and justice, and all who have committed their journeys to creating a better world for all who are young and old, dead and living, articulate and silent, strange and familiar, brilliant and ordinary.
We remember, O God, all who have called this temple of love their spiritual home, all whose generosity and love live on in this gathered and community, and all who have lived in the way and spirit of Fountain Street Church beyond these hallowed walls.
We remember in every time and place the saints of the earth who have shown us glimpses of the divine, signs of the holy, and insight into the ultimate truth.
As we relish in this moment, surrounded by so great a cloud of witnesses, let us gather together in joy and undying gratitude here and now.
Blessed be.
Blessed be. Discourse on Loving Kindness by the Buddha. Let your love flow outward through the universe to its height, its depth, its broad extent, a limitless love without hatred or enmity. Then, as you stand or walk, sit or lie down, as long as you are awake, strive for this with a one-pointed mind. Your life will bring heaven to earth.
Epitaph by Meredith Bradley. When I die, give what's left of me away to children and old men that wait to die. And if you need to cry, cry for your brother walking the street beside you. And when you need me, put your arms around anyone and give them what you need to give to me. I want to leave you something better than words or sounds. Look for me in the people I've known or loved. And if you cannot give me away, at least let me live on in your eyes and not in your mind. You can love me most by letting hands touch hands, by letting bodies touch bodies, and by letting go of children that need to be free. Love doesn't die, people do. So when all that's left of me is love, give me away.
In the Christian tradition, churches across denominational and social orientations share in the same gospel reading on this All Saints Sunday. Though we draw upon many of the great religious and secular traditions here at Fountain Street Church, I invite you to hear the words being heard around the world on this Feast of All Saints and see where their ancient truths might find new meaning in our contemporary world. A reading from the Gospel as told to us by Matthew. When Jesus saw the crowds, he went up the mountain. And after he sat down, his disciples came to him. Then he began to speak and taught them, saying, Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be filled. Blessed are the merciful, for they will receive mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they will see God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called children of God. Blessed are those who are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are you when people revile you and persecute you, and utter all kinds of evil against you falsely on my account. Rejoice and be glad, for your reward is great in heaven, for in the same way they persecuted the prophets who were before you. Here ends the reading.
This morning I recognize that these words from Jesus from the Christian stories might be as unsettling as they are unfamiliar for many of us. We don't read from the Bible that often here at Fountain Street Church, and if you're like me, you might even bristle a little bit or kind of recoil when you hear these Christian stories read aloud. Even I, an ordained Christian minister, feel this internal wall of defense rise up sometimes when I hear these stories read aloud, and I know for many of you, that is your experience too, and rightfully so. We have seen these Christian stories and this Christian witness used to hurt and abuse and marginalize and exploit people. And we have seen them used as the backbone to political bigotry and questionable ethical practices. And we have seen them used against even ourselves. Yes, you and I have been the victims of some of the hurt and harm that has come from them. And so I know that here in our culture at Fountain Street Church, we sometimes feel like a reticence or a resistance to hearing them. And yet, like all of the great wisdom traditions of our world, the Christian teachings, and particularly the radical teachings of Jesus, have so many ancient truths to offer us in our contemporary cultural contexts. And this morning's reading is no different. And so I hope you trust this morning that as we hear those words, and as we try to bring new meaning and new life to them, we do so with sensitivity and awareness that it might be difficult, and yet there are nuggets and gifts of those ancient truths ready for us to discover. This morning's reading that you heard Jean read is often referred to as the Beatitudes. And this is often the case with not just the Christian stories, but all ancient religious stories. Just a little bit of context goes a really long way. To understand the Beatitudes, I like to think about them as Jesus' roadmap, or a blueprint, or even a radical leftist manifesto that he is offering. What Jesus is saying and what he is doing in the Beatitudes is essentially offering up an alternative way of being, an alternative culture, an alternative framework for the kingdom of God that is radically rooted in the present, here and now, and that includes all people. What's interesting about the Beatitudes, both when they were heard and when they were written into the Christian stories, as well as today when we hear them in our own contexts, is that they are equally submissive and countercultural back then and this morning for each of us. In a time of immense systemic oppression, unimaginable marginalization, and horrific exploitation, which many of us might say looks a little bit like our country today, Jesus was reframing an understanding for a realm of God, or the kingdom of God, or even call it heaven, if you will, that was rooted in the here and now, and that was entirely inclusive of the least and the last among him. Even the very language of kingdom, or of realm, or of heaven, was subversive, suggesting that God's culture of justice and equity and inclusivity and compassion trumped the cultural organization of the times he was speaking to. It trumped the cultural organization, the way in which the culture was organized around him. And that is precisely what the Beatitudes, or the attitudes of being, or the blessed way of being was all about. It was a roadmap. It was a blueprint. It was a radical leftist manifesto offering a new way of organizing the culture, a new cultural organization. Jesus was being a resistor. Jesus was being a radical. Jesus was being a revolutionary. And he was redefining heaven as a place that worked for the people in his world and arguably in our own. He was offering a reorganization plan that was entirely counterintuitive and countercultural to everything that his world knew to be true during the time of his advocacy work. And that, my friends, is the Beatitudes in a nutshell. A roadmap, a blueprint, and a manifesto for a new way of organizing a culture, for a new way of understanding heaven that worked for the people. When you look at it that way, you don't have to believe in some magical God or some magical Christian God high up in the sky to see what Jesus was doing. But so what? Why does this matter? Why is Reverend Christopher Rowe, of all people, preaching to the people of Fountain Street Church, of all places, about Jesus and Jesus' works? Well, I'll tell you why it matters, at least to me. This is, in fact, my third All Saints Sunday in a row preaching to you. I know, it's hard to believe. It has been 3 years. And for the past 2 of them, I have preached about heaven as this place rooted in the here and the now. And you heard some of that in Jesus' message this morning. Heaven as a place in the here and the now. You have one life to live, so what are you going to do with it? And that is a relevant and fair and good and holy and true message to share. But I wonder if there was more to it than just that. I wonder if I've been doing you a disservice, and in the process, have I been doing myself a disservice, and have I been doing the community a disservice? I wonder if I should have been reimagining like Jesus had in his time. I wonder if I should have been reconstructing and reframing a concept of heaven that needed to be explored and understood today. This year, if I'm being frank, in the deepest of my being, in the depths of my soul, and buried deep within my heart, on this November 1st, mere breaths away from one of the most unsettling and worrisome elections of our time, I do actually believe that we all need and deserve a new understanding of heaven, and one that works for the rest of us, one that works for all of us, whether or not you believe in some God in the sky, or you believe in the power of the divine that's within all of us. But I'm not talking about matters of life and death, and whether you go to the ground or the sky. I'm talking about the matters of life and death that affect everyone around us in our own community and beyond this community. I'm talking about a new heaven, a new blueprint, a new way of organizing the culture that has very real and lasting impacts on everything and everyone around us. A way of organizing the culture and looking to the marginalized and the voiceless and the oppressed and the exploited and saying, this is not okay. This is not a culture that has been organized for everyone. This is not a culture that values lives over profit and power. This is not a culture that has been organized in the way that Jesus sees it, in the ways that you and I would like to see it. This is the kind of heaven I think we each need to be looking for today on this All Saints Sunday. And so on this particular All Saints Sunday, I'm asking us to think about life and death in a new way, but not just in the way of saying, well, you get one of them, so use it the best you can, but instead in ways in which we recognize that life is more than whether or not your heart is beating, that life is more than whether or not your lungs are breathing. Let's see life the way that Jesus was preaching to those early ones to see it. Life is living. Life is being fully alive and knowing what it means to be fully human. Life is thriving. Life is loving, and life is being loved. Life is growing. Life is changing, and life is flourishing. That is what life was for the historical Jesus, and that is the kind of life that is only sustainable in a reality of heaven that is working for everyone, in a culture that has been organized for everyone. And it is up to us, you and me, to cultivate this reality, not only for ourselves, but for a world that is so desperately waiting for each of us to work together and realize this new realm of heaven here and now. On this All Saints Sunday, we are reminded again and again that the saints are here to help. We are reminded that our loved ones are here to help, and we are reminded that those who have gone before us that we will never know are here to help create this version of heaven on earth. Let's hold on to that idea that heaven is indeed here and now, grounded in a cultural organization that serves everyone, and let's consider the ways in which our ancestors and our loved ones and those we will never know in their own ways were cultivating the same kind of realm that Jesus was advocating for. Let's draw upon their strengths, and let's draw upon their wisdoms and their commitments to living a bigger and better lives that was beyond themselves. This church that we know and love has been equipped with 1.5 centuries worth of these saints, eagerly waiting for their lives to be touchstones of inspiration for each of us as individuals and as a contemporary congregation. I implore each of us to draw upon them for inspiration and strength. Pray to them. Pray to the saints like many other traditions do, in whatever ways that look like, and model your life, and I will model my life by their examples. Let the saints of yesterday be an inspiration for all of us today, so that we might experience and live into a better tomorrow for all people. And let this All Saints' Day be day one of this sacred, holy, and mysterious journey towards a new heaven that is here for all of us. I do believe that we are equipped and prepared to create our own cultural roadmaps of a new organization of the culture in our midst. And on this All Saints Sunday, as we stand within reaching distance of the election in the midst of a life-changing pandemic, I pray that you are liberated from the very real and present anxiety of Tuesday, and instead see your place in the community of saints among us. I pray that you are freed from the grip of toxicity and divisiveness that is all around us, and instead see the beauty and the hope that Jesus once saw and your place within it. I pray that you look to the chaos and the uncertainty and the disorganization of our time, and you are liberated into a sense of hope and faith that you, yes, you, and I and our congregation are equipped by the ancestors and those we love to imagine and live into a reorganization of our times. We've got this, my friends. The ancestors have our backs, and we owe it to them and to the world that's counting on us to do something about it and be a part of the great reorganization of the heaven that's already in our midst. In the spirit of hope, I am with you, each and every one of you this week. I am here for you, and I am ready to minister alongside of you as we share in this 151-year ministry of cultivating a new heaven, here and now amongst all of us. May it be so, and happy All Saints' Day.
Wild Geese by Mary Oliver. You do not have to be good. You do not have to walk on your knees for 100 miles through the desert, repenting. You only have to let the soft animal of your body love what it loves. Tell me about despair, yours, and I will tell you mine. Meanwhile, the sun and the clear pebbles of rain are moving across the landscapes, over the prairies and the deep trees, the mountains and the rivers. Meanwhile, the wild geese, high in the clean blue air, are heading home again. Whoever you are, no matter how lonely, the world offers itself to your imagination, calls to you like the wild geese, harsh and exciting, over and over, announcing your place in the family of things.
This morning, as an invitation to our offering, I invite you to hear the names of the lives that have influenced this community, either directly to the congregation or directly to the people who call this their home congregation. As you hear their names read aloud, think about the ways in which their very lives, their very way of being, the very orientation to the organization of their culture was a gift of generosity and an act of compassion to everyone around them. In the spirit of the offering, I invite you to hear their names as an offering. Jack Bowers, Mike Riley, Loretta Bird, Gary Heising, Linda Heising, Anna Gregorian, Dale Briggs, Joanna DeHeer, Philip DeHeer, Evelyn Barris, John Barris, Rudolph Zadarovich, Trudy Kilpatrick, Jesse Kilpatrick, Mary Jane Dockery, Gabriella Gort, Gwendolyn Gort, Eliza Gort, Jill Butte, Seth Oliver, Dorothy Oliver, Doris Cooney, Bob Scott, Marilyn Scott, Rocky Oliver, Jet Oliver, Jerry Paddock, Sandy Paddock, Bob Casey, Bruce McDowell, Pat Murphy, Pete Wingham, Mary Ann Kelly, Jean Winter, Cece Winter, Gail Troutwine, Esther Troutwine, Irene Troutwine, Janet Thering, Linda Ryan, Maya Angelou, Adrian Sweats, Duncan Littlefair, June Nordstrom, Fred Nordstrom, Roger Bradley, Dorothy Bradley, Christopher Bradley, Larry Doran, Jenny Doran, Beverly Howerton, Dorian Ford, Ken Cruz, Gloria Cruz, Chris Jeffries, Mark Heidel, Len Cayenne, Joan Hammond Crandall, Norma Fick, Patricia Anderson, John Barfus, Sam Coral, Michael Knopf, Eugene Jean Device, Carl Bajima, Denise Andresma, Art and Frida Van Deventer, Bert Andresma, the Reverend Stanley Wilson, Mitch Witkowski, Ben Jones, Roger Reed, Helen Reed, Sue Verdine Miller, John W. Richmond III, John W. Richmond IV, Catherine Rose Richmond, Donna K. Smith, Orford Bowe, Pam Cuthbert, Reverend John DeVries, Trudy Vinstee, Florist Post, and all of those names unspoken in this holy moment. May their lives serve as an inspiration and a touchstone for all of us. May we live with their generosity and lead by their own example. With the spirit of the saints named before you, the offering will now be taken. You can do it through Venmo. You can do it through sending a check. You can do it through the website. But what matters most is that it is done with the spirit of the saints before us in a way that reorganizes the culture towards generosity and compassion and love. Blessed be. We have a choice this week. We have a choice to decide and discern what our beatitudes, what our attitude of being, what our blessed way of living is going to look like. Every day is going to present you with new fear and new anxiety and new hope and new opportunity to decide what kind of reality, what kind of realm, what kind of heaven you want to be a part of in the here and in the now. And I know that is easier said than done. I will be right there with you, having to challenge myself this week. But trust me when I say the ancestors have our back and we have one another. And so as you go forth this week, I invite you to hear my own beatitudes, my own attitude for being my own blessing to you. And I invite you to imagine what your own beatitude might look like today and what it might look like this week. Blessed are those who free the mind, grow the soul, and change the world, for they wish to experience being fully human and help others do the same. Blessed are those who are anxious for Tuesday, for they are invested in our nation's future. Blessed are the marginalized and the oppressed among us, for they are extravagantly welcomed in the culture that we have been called to organize for our time. Blessed are those who care for the earth, our island home, for they promote healthy and dynamic ecosystems that take care of us. Blessed are the organizers, the resistors, the protesters, and the bold among us, for they see and command a new heaven for our time that works for all of us. Blessed are those who are empathetic, patient, compassionate, and understanding, for they help heal our broken world. Blessed are all of us, each and every one of us, in our amazing diversity of age, ethnicity, orientation, race, and ability, for we make visible and manifest the glory of all creation. Blessed are you, beloved, in your fear and in your hope, in your anxiety and in your faith, for you are a miracle put here to be a piece of this mysterious and dynamic new heaven that we are each creating together. Blessed be indeed. We're going to be okay, my friends.